In business, your brand is interwoven and interconnected to your legacy. Impressions in life and in business are everything. And like the old adage goes, you only get one chance to make a positive first impression. According to zippia, a consistent brand reputation increases revenue by as much as 33%. 86% of consumers prefer a consistent and authentic brand image. Meanwhile, zippia also says that consistent coloring increases your brand recognition by as much as 80%, while 77% of consumers shop from brands which share their same values. And finally, 83% of consumers prefer to buy brands that they trust. Ruben Alvarez knows all about consistent and effective brand awareness. He's a brand consultant who believes sales will bring you money. However, building a brand will impact your legacy. He's been featured in some prominent business and financial publications, including Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Business Insider, Los Angeles Tribune, LA, Style Magazine, and more, all because of his tactics when it comes to effective brand and business development. He's an advocate for businesses and people to create magnetic brands which the consumer comes to you for. And Alvarez joined me this week to tell me more about his success in business, life, and branding. I'm 𝐂𝐫𝐞𝐚. Let's have this conversation. Yeah, so Ruben, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend. And I'm super excited to learn about your journey in manufacturing and how you turned it into a career as an executive leader, my friend. Great to see you this afternoon. And thank you so very much for being here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be on the show. This should be a really good time. I mean, there's so much that I think that we can share for anybody who's really trying to make an impact or be ambitious, like we just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruben, I know part of your story started in the manufacturing industry, my friend, and you spent nearly a decade there learning about sales and marketing, and it led you to have a creative way to garner some clients. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about all the great work that you do and a little bit about your personal and professional journey as well.
Yeah, so everything that we do now has been through learning, adapting, and more or less having a little bit of an evolution through our processes and our products and really what we deliver to the market. And we really had to look at what is it that we're saying is our product, and is that something that people even want to buy? And so I think that the main reason that I've been able to do that, to get a little bit into my story, is I started in culinary, right? And that's what I got my degree in. I was working in a lot of kitchens, and the one thing that I took away from the kitchen is you got to keep going. Like, no matter what happens, you always keep going. If you cut your finger, you don't go home. And it's weird because it's the environment, right? Like if you go home, they're like, really, you're gonna go home, and you feel weird going home. So I took that from it, but I realized I didn't want to be cooking. I like eating. I don't like cooking. There's a big difference, right? And it took me a really long time to figure that out. Then I went into manufacturing. I worked my way up. I was able to really make a difference and make an impact in the manufacturing space. I became sales and marketing manager. A lot of indirect sales to the same people over and over, never direct to consumer. So we had to get really creative with the way that we sold, and that pretty much took me to my business and where I am today.
Yeah, and you mentioned something very that piqued my interest. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you think it means to be an effective adapter? What does it mean to you to effectively adapt to certain situations?
Yeah, great question, because I think there is a big difference, huge difference actually, in the people who adapt and then the people who just can't seem to do something for more than 5 minutes because of their attention span. And so we see this a lot. We see this a lot with people who are like, hey, I was selling cars, and then all of a sudden it's like, what are you doing now? And it's like, well, now I'm an accountant. And well, what about like 2 months from now? Oh, well, now I decided to start my own business. But then 2 months later, it's like, you know what? I gave up on the business because I decided that I wanted to run a juice bar. So I think there's a difference between adapting and then just not being able to commit to something. And so if you're able to know that even though things might come up, if you're able to stick to the core of what you're doing, then it makes sense. And so I myself, I used to be like, okay, adapt, a new service, a new this, a new company, a new brand. People are asking for this, and I would open up everything, right? And what I learned is that as you progress, you start taking on less of those, and you really start thinking, does this align with the main thing that I'm doing? And so for me, I had marketing hunters, and then I had a podcast, and then I had a brand consulting company. And so I really started asking myself, is this one helping the main one, which is the marketing hunters, or is it detracting from all the other ones? Is me creating content 5 days a week helping the marketing hunters, or is it detracting? And so the more that every single thing and every single process that I bring in, is it helping the main business, or is it really detracting from it and not helping me grow it? When you're able to see that, then you can adapt and shift into these things that says, hey, you know what? I need to hire someone new for content. Okay, is it helping the business? Yeah, it's helping the business. Is it bringing in more revenue? It's not. Should I still do it? Yes, because if I get this person to free up me or my salesperson, then they can bring a new business. Okay, that makes sense. Not just a gut feeling of I feel overworked and therefore I should bring someone in. And so that's the key secret to it. Does it really just all align with what you're doing? And if it does, then yeah, shift and adapt to it. But if it's just something new because you can't commit to something else, then probably not.
Yeah, and again, you brought up something that I raised an eyebrow about. So I'll ask you, as a content creator, one of the things that I try to do when I create content is not to feel that I'm saturating the market with things that everyone else has their own spin on, but actually creating content that is useful and innovative. So I guess from your perspective, I'm curious, how do you make sure, or when you create content, that you don't get saturated?
Very, very good question as well. The thing that is lacking more than anything in any industry is always great communication. So it really doesn't matter on the content that you create if you're able to deliver it really well. And so that's the hard part that I think most people don't try to focus on. They don't try to focus on how can I deliver this in the best way possible. They think, how can I be different enough so that way people pay attention. But the problem is that even when you're different, you still have to know how to deliver. So a lot of the times you focus on the foundational aspects that cause people to pay attention to the content, And before you can actually go into the attention grabbing parts, before you can go viral, you need to know why somebody would stay on the video past 3 seconds, right? Which is what we call a 3 second hook. But if you can't understand the foundational aspect of why somebody would even watch a video, then it's really hard to know how you're going to create something that people will actually want to watch past 3 seconds.
Yeah, and Ruben, I'm also fascinated to ask you, whether it's a podcast or being a motivational speaker or anything in life, you know, I firmly believe that you have to have a commitment to be a great leader in any aspect of your life. So I'm curious to ask you, what do you think it means to have a commitment or a level of commitment to be an effective leader?
Yeah, commitment is a huge part of it. Even with consistency, right? We talk about consistency and we hear people talk about consistency a lot of the times. And to me, consistency is pretty much a given. So what ends up happening is once you are consistent and you see it as nothing special, right? Oh, I felt sick today, so I came to work, and you want people to pat you on the back. But once you see it as just a given, you should have gone to work regardless, right? When you see it that way, commitment becomes very easy because you no longer feel bad or sorry. You don't have sorrow. You don't need encouragement from others because you see it as the bare minimum. And so I think that leaders, and especially the greats, right? Anyone like Muhammad Ali or Kobe, we see these athletes and we think, yeah, they're committed to who they are. Kobe would lose a game and go to the court right after. He would go practice for 2 hours after the game, even though it was probably 9 o'clock at night. He would practice from 9 to 11 on the shot that he missed. I truly believe that he didn't see that as special. He didn't see that as, oh, I need to be consistent and I'm happy that I did it today. He was like, I lost and therefore this is what I need to do. And so the more that we struggle to see commitment as something that we truly should be doing anyway, the harder it becomes. But if we're able to imitate these great leaders who saw things that they were supposed to do regardless, I don't think Alexander the Great saw, him going and conquering a new town as something that was special. I think he just saw it as something that he needed to do. And when we're able to commit in that way, it changes everything.
Yeah, and Ruben, I know a part of your business journey took an interesting turn in 2019, and you were able to crack six figures in just over 9 months. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about that experience and that part of your business journey as well.
Yeah, that was, I believe, the salesman in me. Yeah, because I had been used to selling, right? The thing with the sales in manufacturing is that it's not very aggressive like it is direct to consumer, right? It's not the stock markets, it's not auto sales, it's not trying to convince somebody to buy something today. It's trying to convince somebody to buy more of what they already bought every single month and then resell it to somebody else. And so when you think of it that way, the sales cycle might be longer and it might be more arduous, but you are building a lot of relationships. And so the thing with me that really helped me out is, one, we were doing $14 million a year at this manufacturing company. So I was already used to dealing with big numbers so big that they seemed pretty much made up. I think that if anybody wants to start earning more money, they need to start playing with bigger numbers. And it doesn't have to be your own numbers. You don't have to get into a company and start selling $5,000, $10,000 things, but start working for somebody who sells big things and then start selling big things. And you'll realize that everything is made up and everything is just a number. When you start seeing that somebody's paying $20,000 a day, you're like, what do you mean $20,000 a day? There's somebody's literally taking $20,000 out of their account, putting it in this account and not even stressing. So I was very conditioned to not see money as a real thing. And so therefore, when I made my prices were not like every other marketing company. My prices were already above. And when I went and talked to people, I was like, this is what it is. And they're like, okay, then that's what it is. And so I didn't have any doubt in what I was doing. And so that's why I was able to scale to that fast in 9 months, was because it all seemed made up. It seemed like people were going to pay regardless. and I just had to find the people that were going to pay regardless of what it was. And so I started just reaching out to people, and they started saying yes. And then eventually other people found out what we were doing, and then they started saying yes. And we had a very good trust and likability factor, and therefore it led to a lot of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruben, I always tell people never apologize for making some cheddar cheese, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your price is what it is, right? And I even say, know what your worth is, add tax. you know, as soon as you think it's too much, maybe add a little bit more and see if people complain. What ends up happening is there's gonna be people that complain, and there's people that are gonna be like, okay, and they're not even gonna question what you said. And if there's people that aren't even questioning what you said, you might be even too low.
Yeah, well, that's why it's important to do your research, isn't it?
Yes and no, because here's the thing. Somebody might be dictating that the market is $500 a month for your service, right? But now you start thinking, well, $500 a month for 4 weeks, that is $125 a week, right? And so then you start thinking, if I work 40 hours a week and I am only able to bring on 4 clients, that is $2,000 per month. And that means that I am making less than if I were doing a regular job. So therefore, I need to charge a minimum of $1,000 per client, right? Sometimes you set the industry standard of what you should charge based on how much money you're actually able to make. Because if it's not scalable, don't do it. If it's not scalable, stay at your job. They're willing to pay you $2,000 to $3,000 to be average and mediocre. If your business is going to make you less than that, then don't do it.
And I know, Ruben, you've written a book called Brand Charge, which has been endorsed by some prominent people. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about the book and what it's all about.
The book is about people who are highly ambitious, people who are maybe even considered aggressive. They're considered like they're too much, that decided that within their industry, they were going to make a name for themselves. And so what I did is I created this collaborative co-authoring project where myself and 10 others were able to tell our stories and give advice on what we did to get where we're at. And I love the idea of the whole shark, right? Because I don't know about you, but everybody seems to use the lion or the wolf, right? Like that's it. Let me get a lion and a wolf because that's what I associate with it. And I'm like, I don't know. The lion, after much research, you find out that the female does most of the hunting. So I'm like, okay, maybe not what I want to portray. The wolf is aggressive, but I don't think that he looks as scary as the lion. So I'm like, what really truly frightens me, and what truly frightens me is, one, the ocean, but I think that I'm frightened of the ocean because of the shark. Because I know that if I go into the ocean and there's a shark, I'm not coming out of that alive. Like, there's just the reality. The shark can have mercy on me. If he doesn't, I'm done. And so when I thought of the shark, I thought, well, what if we were brand sharks, right? What if we had unfair advantages and we were the ones that were in the ocean and everybody else was the ones that were the swimmers, the humans? We're the sharks, they're the humans. We have unfair advantages. And that's where I came up with that concept. And therefore, we wrote about the unfair advantages that we found out, the secrets that we had to discover to get where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, before we started recording, I talked about having an ambitious day. So tell me, what does the word ambitious mean to you? And how do you think we can apply the word ambitious to both our personal and professional life?
The word ambition to me, more than anything, refers to the full potential that you could live up to. So if we were talking, hey, you know what, from when you were born to the day that you died, you should have made, I don't know, $100 billion, right? You should have helped 1 million lives. You should have helped the church. You should have helped the children. You should have not allowed these people to commit suicide because you had a very special gift in you, right? That's ambition. Now, how much of that we get to live up to, I think, is up to us. And so therefore, I know you said, what's the difference between our personal and our business life? the business life, I think, is going to be the money, right? But the personal life is how many people are you able to help? And it's within us to help specific people. It's within us to prevent people from killing themselves over suicide, you know? And I think that that is the true meaning of ambition, is how much of what you're actually capable of achieving are you actually going to do before you leave this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about paying it forward, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Ruben, I know that you have been featured in Forbes and you had a TED talk about leadership, confidence, and motivation. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about those experiences, how they impacted you personally, and the message you hope that those experiences impart on some other people as well.
Well, there's a bit there. The Forbes, I'll start with that. I knew from, I think, age 23 or age 25, for some reason I said I want to get my boss on Forbes because that would be pretty cool. Like, we would be probably the only people in the industry that would have their boss on Forbes. But he was less than ideal to work with. I loved him and I hated him at the same time because he could be a dick if he wanted to. And so I eventually knew that I wanted to be on Forbes, but I didn't know how long it was going to take, and I wanted to be on a real Forbes outlet. I didn't want to pay for it. I know that some people were paying for like Forbes India a while back because you were able to do it, but I was like, I really want to feel like I earned this. And so at some point, I decided to stop chasing things that look like I was accomplished, and I decided to go after things that really would make me accomplished. And so when I got the Forbes Mexico feature, it was because I am an accomplished Latino entrepreneur. And therefore I had a real, not a paid thing where I paid somebody and I submitted my own thing. I had a real interview with somebody from Forbes Mexico. And so that was a great feeling. One, because I knew I was going to make it on Forbes. It was the Latino edition. So for me and my heritage, it was amazing. I could send that to my mom. She understood what I was doing finally, and so it felt really good. And I think that that's something that everybody should try to experience, is go after real things. That's one of the best feelings. And so when I got the TEDx talk, same thing. I was blessed to be able to have that and to be able to say that I didn't pay for it. It actually came to me a little bit because I was through connections that I had been developing. And I asked, hey, for the next one, what are you looking for? And they're like, do you want to do this one? I was like, hell yeah, I want to do this one. But I didn't have to go through a long process like everybody else does. I didn't have to be selected and everything. It was because I was the right person already, right? So there's a lot really to unfold there. If anybody's listening right now, what can you do that is actually real? Like, what can you do that's not faking or pretending? How can you be okay with not turning off the fake or the hidden likes on Instagram because it makes your ego feel bad, right? That people aren't liking your stuff. Why don't you leave it on and start counting them and make sure that they grow? That's, I think, the real part of growth as a person, is be upset that you don't have more likes, be upset that you don't have your own TED talk, be upset that you're not on Forbes, and go after it for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Ruben, I'm going to share with you just a part of my own personal journey. So, but
Yeah.
I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen to walk normally. And, you know, Ruben, I was told at 9 years old, buddy, and I'm 33 now, that I wouldn't be able to walk without the assistance of a walker. But I always tell people that the response to adversity will define your overall story of excellence. So, you know, what I want to ask you from a business and personal standpoint is your definition of inclusion and creating an inclusive culture. What do you think that looks like where all people have a sense of a chance to accomplish, whether it be in business or within their personal lifestyle? So, what's your definition of an inclusive culture?
That's interesting. So I think the biggest thing is it's possible for everyone, but it's not going to be realistic for everyone. And it's not because you can't do it. It's because most people will believe that they can't. And so the inclusive part is that yes, like let's get all these people, right? Let's not exclude anyone. But I think the people themselves are the ones that are pushing themselves out. And that's the hardest part to believe, because how do you make sense of not wanting more, right? I don't think I've ever understood that myself. How do you make sense of living on 36,000 a year, barely scraping by? And so therefore I think that the people that make just enough to get by, they believe that the system is rigged and that they can't do it. And in some places, maybe you have less than ideal circumstances, right? But in other places, especially here in the US, it's really not that hard if you just don't believe that. If you truly have this understanding that we were gifted to be able to do whatever we want if we push hard enough, then it can be done. And I even talk about this one example. There was a guy in Nigeria that was a contortionist, right? Like he would move his limbs around and everything. And he basically went to America's Got Talent England or something like that. And they're like, well, how'd you get here? And he's like, I walked from Nigeria to here. And so it really goes to show you that there is no excuse for this. If you really want to get something done, if you want a better life, you just have to go after it.
Yeah, and to that point, just building on that point, I know that you're known for creating magnetic brands that last. And so my next question has to do with prosperity and achieving prosperity in business and in life. And how do you think we do that? And how, if you had to create a blueprint for creating magnetic brands, how do you think we can do that in a nutshell?
Step one, think higher of yourself than you already do, right? I thought of Forbes the instant that I became a business owner. So I think that most people, they think I want to get sales and I want to have money and that's it. And no one's going to be attracted to you by that, right? So step one, think higher of yourself. Step two, have a vision. What is something that people would actually want to know you for? What is something that they would want to get behind? Especially in a small city. You might think, hey, I'm in a small city. No one wants to know me. We don't have anything here. If you have a vision of let's create this small city into a big city, people will want to get to know you. You're attracting people at that point.
Yeah,
Three,
yeah, go ahead,
go ahead.
Sarah.
No, I was gonna say three, have a following, grow a following. Most people think that social media is stupid and they let their ego get in the way. The more people that know you, the more influence you have, the more that people want to actually at that point interview you. You seem very interesting because they know that you can introduce them to new people. And the world does not revolve around money. The world revolves around people and connections. And I know that's really hard to understand when you don't have money, but that's the reality.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And one of the, whenever I interview business people such as yourself, I always ask them, because I live by the motto, Ruben, that life is a constant game of networking, and creating authentic connections is the key to life. So tell me about the power of networking and the need to really create authentic connections.
So networking is probably the golden sauce of any dish, right? It's the secret behind what gets you where you want to be. Most people think I want to get to Forbes and therefore they find a person and then they pitch them, and sure you might get on there, but they might say screw you, I have a bunch of people, right? The reality is that if you want to get on Forbes, if you want a TED Talk, if you want my book, right? Like if you want a book, whatever it is that you want, it's going to be through a connection. And if you don't understand this, then you're going to pay and probably a really high premium price for every single thing in your life. And see, most people know that everybody who's rich gets stuff for free, and they think that they get it for free because they have money. But the reality is not that they have money. It's that people are giving them stuff for free because they want their connections. They want, if you give me a free car and I have billions of dollars, what am I going to do? I'm not going to give you more business, right? Because you just gave me a free car. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture or a video and I'm going to say, hey, this person just gave me a free car. I'm going to tell my friends. I'm going to refer my friends over to you. So you don't care about my money. You know that because I have money, I have connections. And so that is the secret, is the more connections you have, the more people want to do business with you, the more they want to give you stuff, because they know that you're going to refer them other people who have the same way what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruben, I'm fascinated to ask you this question because, I believe one of the keys to life is really challenging yourself to be 1% better than the day that you were the day before. So tell me, how do you challenge yourself to be 1% better and really reach the limits of your own potential? What does it mean to you to challenge yourself to be better at everything you do?
I think you have to find the things that scare the hell out of you, truly, right? Not like skydiving or stuff like that, because skydiving could scare you, but I think that you'll do it if you really want to. But I'm talking about the things that really truly scare the hell out of you. I'm scared to, for example, not me, but just as examples, right? Because I was about to talk about my wife, and I don't want her to think that. But I'm scared to tell my wife that I don't want to go on vacation because I'd rather work. Most people don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to tell my boss that I deserve a raise, even though I know I've been grinding my face off. I don't want to make these sales calls because I hate rejection. I don't want to sit down and write a book for 3 months because it's going to take 3 months and I want things instantly now. We don't want to have these really hard conversations, these really tough things that are insecurities about us. I don't want to create video content because I'm afraid of the way I look, because I look overweight and I know that, and I hate myself. I truly despise myself when I see myself in front of a camera because I see the double chin. Face it. Go to the gym. Face it. Take the video anyway. When you do that, that's what changes things. That's what's life changing, right? And so therefore, if you want to see that change, like, you really have to have those difficult conversations. You have to really look internally to know what it is that you're lacking.
Yeah, and Ruben, just talking to you, I would beat myself up if I didn't ask you this question. One of the reasons that I wanted to start this podcast is I look at the world, Ruben, and I said to myself, societally, we're all put into sort of our own partisan corners a lot of the time, especially in American culture. And I think that somewhere along the way we lost our ability to have meaningful conversations with people that we disagree with. So one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast was to have authentic conversations that move the needle of progress forward from a societal perspective. So I'm fascinated to ask you, how do you think we can continue to move the needle of progress forward from a societal perspective that allows us to sort of build bridges of unity, which we can all use to solve problems, create innovation, and really come up with solutions to advance forward in society?
Truly, it's a difficult question, and I know that most people might answer that we should continue to have these conversations and that things will get better. But I have truly come to realize that there are two sides to this. There's a side that wants to go back to the way that everything was. It's the side that doesn't want change and that wants truly traditional values. And then there is a side that wants change and is longing for change. And it doesn't matter what that change is, but we want change because we want things to be better. And so therefore it has become very hard because everybody wants an opinion and everybody gets an opinion because of the internet. And so I think that as time goes on, we're eventually going to see one side, which I truly believe is going to be the side of change, overcome the other side. And it's because there is so many things in this world that were do it as I say because I say it is that way. For example, work. You have to work from an office. And now we're seeing, well, work from home is pretty good. It's not terrible. It's not, you don't get the same results, but it's not terrible. There is some leniency there. We see things such as same-sex marriage. We see things such as, the equal pay for everyone. And so as things happen and as time progresses, we have to see change that is beneficial for everyone as a positive thing. And all I can say is that I hope that as time progresses, more people are open and adapt to things becoming better and not see them as threatening or new.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ruben, in the couple of minutes I have left with you, buddy, I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that is important to me is celebrating life's wins, no matter how big and how small. So how do you celebrate the wins that you have in life? And I know that your Latina heritage is important to you. So how do you celebrate that also in everything that you do?
Truly, the wins are hard for me because it seems like a given, like I said. So the Forbes, I was actually really happy about. I think that's the first thing that I've truly celebrated and that I allowed myself to get happy over. Because sometimes I believe that it's not going to happen. Sometimes I believe it's not going to be true until I actually see things, right? We don't believe things to be true until we actually see them as true. And so whenever I celebrate, it's more or less if it feels like a real celebration. And so for like my business, we are doing very well financially, but there's still some debt. And so therefore I'm like, I don't feel like celebrating until every bit of debt is gone. Some people might go, hey, you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. I can't feel happy until it's gone. Ruben, you bought a house. I'm in debt. I have 30 years. I just bought a house. Why can I be happy over a house that's not mine? And so it's a little bit different in thinking, but I believe that is what has gotten me to where I'm at, because I do not celebrate until it feels like an actual win. I don't celebrate anymore the things that feel like partial wins because they are not that way. And so I truly believe that, once I buy my house, I'll probably go to Vegas. I'll go to Bali. I'll go somewhere and I'll party my face off, right? But until then, I'm going to treat it as if what it really is, which is basically the house is not mine until it is mine.
Keeping your eye on the prize is important, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, my friend. And so finally, my final question for you is, when you look at your personal and professional legacy, how do you want that to be defined?
Dude, I'm telling you, I love the word ambition. I want people to say, man, that guy was ambitious. That dude lived up to his full potential. I want them to define me as somebody who truly knew what he was going after, that just defied odds, and no matter what. It's funny, I'll tell you a little story. So we had just had a little bit of drama with some people here in the city of El Paso, and they thought that they had kind of done some stuff to us, and then the next day I forgot what it was, but we announced something, and then the following day I announced TEDx, and then the next day I think I announced Forbes. And so I told my sales manager John, I was like, you know what, I would hate honestly to be a hater of mine, because they probably have to go on social media every day and be like, you know what, F that guy Ruben, what has he done lately? Oh, god damn it, he's on TEDx. And then the next day, oh god damn it, he's on Forbes. And it's true, like every day we aim to outdo ourselves. My sales manager John, I'm doing Brand Sharks Volume 2. He's going to be an author in there with me. So now it's not even like I'm not even ambitious for myself. I'm ambitious for my people. And so when people try to say, hey, you know what has he done lately? Well, dude, it's not even about me anymore. At this point, it's about who's going to be around me. You're around me, you're going to be successful. You know what I mean? So that's how I think I want my life to be defined as. I want it to be defined as pure raw ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like aspiring towards greatness and of finally reaching whatever our portrait of success is, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Ruben, tell me if people want to get connected with you, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
So I love Instagram. That's my platform. So if they want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at I am Ruben Alvarez, but it's the same one for every platform. But I would prefer Instagram just because of the DM feature.
Fabulous. Well, Ruben, I thoroughly enjoyed our thought-provoking, extensive, and meaningful conversation about leadership, life, and everything in between, my friend. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated. I want to congratulate you on all of your success. And thank you for engaging in conversation with me this afternoon. It's most
Oh man.
appreciated.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, brother.